Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's me, GXC, and today I'll be rating zombie games. There are 4 topics that games will be rated by. 1. Gameplay. This part mentions graphic, music, and UI design. Part 2. Zombies. In this segment we'll talk about zombies, how they feel, whether they're a real threat, whether they behave in a way that makes sense. Whether or not they're bullet sponges or not. Part 3. In part 3, we'll talk about the weapons and tools we use in-game. Whether it be guns, swords, or just tools like a pickaxe or axe or shovel or whatever. Part 4, we have to talk about the devs and the community that stands behind the devs, because those are both incredibly major parts to any video game. I will say that this is not a complete list of every zombie video game, which you can see by the length of the video. Another thing is that a lot of the games that you will really like might not be on here, and suggest those in the comments, if you will. Another thing, this is my opinion, and these are the opinions of people who decide to work with me on this video. I'd also like to thank Regal for coming on and working with me on this. All games will be rated on 10 out of 10% of 10 points rating. With that being said, thank you for coming and watching my video. Let's get on with it. I have a good amount of hours on 7 days, and because of that, I have lots to say about 7 days. I have many issues with it, even though I love the game. The gameplay, although interesting with the idea of stronger zombies every 7 days, as well as them getting smarter, the rest of the game just feels very taped together, very mashed together, I would say. With many visual assets in the game, I mean by that, not even being actually in the game at this current moment in time. Another thing, although the rest of the music in the game is some of the best music I've heard in just a basic survival game, I'd put only slightly behind Minecraft and ambience, I would say. There's one track, in my opinion, that just completely damages the reputation of the rest of the music in the game, and that's the track that plays every 7 days on a blood moon. And during the blood moon, it's a small group of chords with no variation, no different instruments. It's just repeated endlessly, an endless loop, which I mean would be fine if the rest of the game didn't sound so good. Not to mention, my opinions on the UI are very harsh, to say the least. It's just a gray background which is slightly transparent. It makes the overall game feel of poor quality, because the main things that you have on your screen all the time don't look very good. I hope in a future update they'll improve this, and I have heard that they mentioned something about improving in 3.0 last June, I think it was. But this current moment, I rate the gameplay as 6 out of 10. The weapons on 7 days are one of my biggest issues with the game. Even though there's a larger variety of weapons types to pick from, with spears, blade weapons, batons, hammers. You can even use your fists if you're so obliged. There are only 3 that you're probably going to use, one of which is just the best out of them all, and that would be blade weapons. Of course, the other 2 options are spears or batons, because they just feel the most powerful and usually are the most powerful weapons, as in melee weapons. One thing I will applaud this game for is its use of melee weapons still holding a purpose mid and even late game, which is not done often by games in this genre. Another thing I want to say is that there's very little customization. Like, yes, you could dye them, yes, you could put a scope, but it doesn't feel like you have any real customizable choices. There's no alternative weapon styles either. It would be nice if you could use a katana instead of a machete, or just a regular sword for that matter. Another thing I want to mention is the ridiculous ammo storage. I personally am a proponent for magazines being added into this game, because there's no way you can walk around in this game without needing 1,000 fucking bullets on you. I know it sounds like hyperbole or me stressing about it, but it's a reality, which my friend Regal will go into in the next minute or so. Another thing I want to mention is that if they don't change this, it makes me not want to play a game, and it just brings the overall spirit of the game down, because yes, you can hold ammo, but you can't loot, you can't do anything else. And with that being said, I have to rate it at 3.5 out of 10. With that being said, I'd like to pass the mic over to somebody who has much more experience than I do in 7 days.
Thanks, JXT. Hello, everyone. I'm Regal2313, the greatest 7 Days player of all time. I hope. I have nearly 3,000 hours into this game, and it's by far my favorite. I'm a huge fan, and I have been for about 2 years now, having nearly 1,000 hours in my PlayStation 4 Legacy Edition world. So yeah, I'm a huge fan. So much so, I plan on building my channel around it. But I do know not to glaze the devs, and I have my own criticisms about the game. That being said, I have some things to say about the game. More specifically, the zombies, the community, and the developers. The fun pimps. Much like my friend GXT, this is entirely opinion-based and is what I have to say. Thanks for listening. Number 1. The zombies do, and sometimes don't, fit. The zombies are really cool in this game. They have very nice designs and movement. On top of this, their movements have been motion captured years ago in the early days of development in-game. But because of this, and because of the fact that they haven't seemed to have done any more making of the movements, they're repetitive, and that leads into my next topic, the design. The zombies are good looking, yes, but their designs are very repetitive and can get kind of immersion breaking very quickly. The most variation you'll see in-game is a different colored t-shirt. You very rarely see any major variation in design. Though we get new models ever so often, they're usually with the same movement. Their AI is actually very similar. This game has gone through some identity crises. Sorry, let me repeat that. You can cut out this in between. This game has gone through some identity crisis. The zombies can't seem to pick between smart or dumb. While they are zombies, and the average depiction of a zombie is dumb, these zombies are smart, yet dumb. They can fall for simple base tricks, but also know how to target supports, weaker blocks in walls, and so on. Because of this, the argument that zombies should be dumber has grown more popular over time. While I personally don't disagree with this, I think it's important to note that we don't have a defined definition of a zombie, as each piece of media treats it differently. But I do think they should be dumber. For example, why do they now target the lowest block to crawl? They have no need to do that. Dumber zombies may not seem like a threat, but it's about numbers. And because of this game's iffy optimization, large amounts of zombies just aren't practical in this game, and likely won't be in the near future, unlike other games like Project Zomboid, whose zombies are threats because of the numbers and other aspects, but we're mostly focused on the numbers here. The biggest issue with zombies is the lack of variation variant-wise in them being complete bullet sponges. Zombies go from normal, to feral, to radiated, to charged, and tied with charged infernals. Ferals to infernals run at all times of day, but radiateds to infernals heal health over time. The problem is, radiated zombies are cool, but they don't fit in places like the desert whatsoever. The wasteland would make a lot more sense, as there's radiation there in-game. So why are charged zombies and infernals just blue and orange? They've been hit with some differing color and very little effort. It's incredibly immersion-breaking. How about, instead of RGB zombies, we got more normal zombie models, or some special zombies like the cops and mutateds, with new ways to handle them in combat. And most importantly, they shouldn't be bullet sponges. It's incredibly odd to me and immersion-breaking, and I'm a big fan of immersion, and many others are too. But thankfully, we might see an update where zombies get toggles and sliders, where we may see options to have zombies with high health, low damage, vice versa, with zombies with low health, high damage, and vice versa. But we can only hope for these things as of now. So overall, the zombies, I'd rate a solid 4.5 out of 10. Alright. So next topic, the developers. The devs, the fun pimps, have seen lots of backlash recently with their anticipated 2.0 drop. It sounded like a good update on paper, but was incredibly underwhelming, and it made the game feel less like a survival game and seemed to favor more towards the fantasy aspect that it's picked up over time. Developers have released things like badges for biome hazard immunity, which was just Boy Scout badges that stopped the player from overheating, freezing, dying of toxic smoke, and radiation. Smoothies did the same thing, but for short periods of time. This got lots of backlash, as well as the very annoying storm system, which was basically 60 seconds until you take large lumps of damage until you die, making storms glorified timeouts. Players completely resented this, and the devs were quick to make a change after popular creator Jawul spoke out about the game's direction. They had quickly made a dev stream, named it the Town Hall, and had actively avoided questions players had in the chat. They had really crossed the line by essentially blaming players for the delay of 3.0 because they didn't like 2.0. Whether this was poorly worded or genuine blaming done by the creator of the Fun Pimps, Rick Hunig, is entirely up to interpretation. So, in short, the developers have had some childish-like behavior, and this is only referring to more recent actions. They've been known for possibly deleting posts containing criticism in the forums, and the 7 Days moderators on the Discord server seem to do their best to shut down criticism on the game as well. It's important to talk about how the community needs to seemingly push the review state on Steam for a rating lower for any possible change, as that was what was needed for 2.0. But we do need to note that the devs have put a lot of love and effort into this game, and they've made their constant delays and too optimistic release dates bandits. They've made a fun game that has promised updates in the future, and have promising updates in the future. 2.5 has made some promising changes to the game, and while there's some funky smelling features, it's overall very fun, and 3.0 is looking to be even better. Overall, the devs, though it sounds weird to say it this way, 5 out of 10. Mostly because I'm a big fan, and this game is really the only reason I like gaming. Alright. Number 3, the community. The community's been very vocal about the changes they wanted to see in the game. And this is a good thing, as the Fun Pimps are only a thing because their fanbase paid them to be. They've been active about wanting changes to the incredibly fucking dumb magazine system, and other matters. There isn't much to say, though, other than my thoughts on how sometimes the community can be cringy, if that's the word I'm looking for here, with their constant hating on the game too. If you're going to hate, provide some criticism so they know what to change. But that aside, the community and the mods are overall what's keeping this game afloat, so I'd rate them 7 out of 10. Overall, this game is a solid 7 out of 10. It's great, but needs a lot of changes. But it still has good potential and is lots of fun. GXT and I have lots of plans for this game and our channels, as well as a huge project taking place around this game underway. Thanks for listening to my segment. Back to GXT. Number 3, the community. The community's been very vocal about the changes they wanted to see in the game. And this is a good thing, as the Fun Pimps are only a thing because their fanbase paid them to be. They've been active about wanting changes to the incredibly fucking dumb magazine system, and other matters. There isn't much to say, though, other than my thoughts on how sometimes the community can be cringy, if that's the word I'm looking for here, with their constant hating on the game too. If you're going to hate, provide some criticism so they know what to change. But that aside, the community and the mods are overall what's keeping this game afloat, so I'd rate them 7 out of 10. Overall, this game is a solid 7 out of 10. It's great, but needs a lot of changes. But it still has good potential and is lots of fun. GXT and I have lots of plans for this game and our channels, as well as a huge project taking place around this game underway. Thanks for listening to my segment. Back to GXT.
I've played both the Dying Light games, and the gameplay in both is great. But I personally love the gameplay of Dying Light 2 because it reminds you of the Mirror's Edge series. The visuals, even years later, are absolutely stunning, and the soundtrack and story follow the same path, with music that encapsulates you in the environment, and the ambience from the zombies, which gives them an audible viscosity, which to this day I struggle to find a game to do it better. Dying Light is a great example of UI done right, with the menu and inventory elements blending wonderfully without feeling oppressive or out of place. I personally feel like the standout feature of this is choosing sides between the PKs and survivors, which makes you think about which side to support, with rewards being different with each group. While the PKs focus on the more combat aspect of the game, the survivors focus on the more parkour-oriented aspect. And the best part is that you choose who wins at the end, who controls the bazaar at the end of the game. Although, unlike Dying Light 1, there's only one gun in Dying Light 2, basically a one-shot shotgun, but that does not mean there is no variety. In fact, there are dozens of different blade weapons, blunt weapons, and ranged weapons, like bows and crossbows. With that being said, blunt ones don't feel as visceral as the blade weapons and the ranged weapons. There are tools in this game to distract zombies and keep yourself human overall. I give the tools and weapons a 7 out of 10 rating. The zombies have to be the best thing about Dying Light. They feel eerie and are both powerful and balanced. Their designs are always really cool looking, and they always keep you on your toes, forcing you to never ignore them. They make both a great obstacle and enemy to go against, and they have one of the best depictions of zombies in the entirety of the zombie media space. Scary but not nightmares, which is a hard line to stand on. And I have to say, they do feel a little weak in the late game, but other than that, I rate them 9 out of 10. I feel like the devs, although from a large company, still seem to have put a lot of love into Dying Light. And the community has mostly returned that, especially with the most recent DLC. The fan base seems to have grown even more than it already had, earning it a 7 out of 10, earning it an overall score of 9 out of 10. I'm gonna be spewing some damn near hateful shit about the next walking simulator disguised as a zombie game. I mean, sweet fucking god, this is gonna be either a short or long segment. Daisy is one of my least favorite games, with gameplay that's probably more boring than any other game I've ever played. I cannot tell you how fucking mind-numbing it is to spend 2 hours walking to try and find your friend while consistently lagging. The guns are incredibly boring and the vehicles are executed poorly, with UI being overly complicated and more dull than a fucking blunt knife. With 7 days even having better UI, with servers that run on hopes and prayers rather than player counts, and zombies that are the most unrememberable walking corpses I have ever seen. In a game where you can die from anything, I'd rather off myself than spend another minute looking at the desaturated colors these devs called realistic. And not having background music simply worsens the intrusive thoughts about running my PC over with a 2003 Toyota Celica. I believe I've spent more time walking than I have actually been playing this game. I would rather inject HIV directly into my bloodstream than play another minute of this clusterfuck of a game. 2 out of 10 on the gameplay. The guns feel either like pea shooters or a drone strike. There's no in between, and somehow, yet, they are incredibly boring. I've heard worse sound design with the firearms in Daisy than I've ever heard before. With guns based on real life, they still can't even make them look right. I can't remember if there were tools in this game, because I probably never even made it that fucking far. And even if there were, I can't tell you that they'd be any different from the weapons, because this half-baked game they call a AAA product is such fucking bullshit to even play. I don't feel like doing more research to even check if there wasn't tools into it. There's truly nothing I can say about the zombies, other than that they were completely boring and forgettable. They were less of a threat than the water inside of the game. I had more trouble dealing with players than I had dealing with them on any day. It was a course of despise and boredom throughout the entire aspect of the zombies. I'm half sure the devs are consistently drunk. I'm not sure if they plan to make the zombie game of the decade, when they couldn't have even made the zombie game of the hour. I fear if I look at the code, I might have a goddamn heart attack, or fear what I might say. The community seems to be relatively fine, which is the only saving grace of this shit show of an incomplete disaster of a game. 3 out of 10. First, I'd like to thank Regal for helping out with this video. I'd also like to thank you for watching. I'd also like to thank those who like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.